Okay, Jenny's got some fun stuff with us today.
I left it over here.
Do you want me to travel with you?
Yeah, let's go over to the thing. I'll let Carly carry it so I don't make you guys sick.
Well, I don't know that I can do it without making you sick either, but
just
I try to talk her into starting over here, but
I didn't realize there were 2 chairs. I didn't want to stand the whole time.
No, I brought 2 chairs over so that we could.
But look, it's ugly behind us, so
it's all good.
It's all good. So this is kind of a pretty basic demo, but we've sold a lot of grid lately. And every time we're on Comment Sold and we're talking about grid, Chris tries to demo it, and she's like, "We should make a grid."
You got to hold it clear up here and show
and she's
how
like,
to
and
do
you
it.
put it on here, and then you sew it, and then you clip it. So anyway, I made her a demo. We're killing 2 birds with 1 stone here today.
Yes, and we're going to show you how you use this stuff.
And this is a super simple demo here.
That's good. We like super simple.
I've
right?
broken it down to easy.
The whole point is to keep it simple.
Just 1 little piece. But so I've started with 2-inch grid and 2.5-inch blocks. So I've already I just cut it into a 9 patch because that's easy. But you can't really see it here, but there is a little line printed. Tips when I'm doing grid, when I very first did it, I couldn't actually see the lines. So I put a white towel behind it or a piece of batting, and then you can pick it all up and go to your ironing board. Or if you're smart, you'll just do it on your ironing board. So I'll lay it out on my ironing board and just do little chunks at a time. That is what I learned from Chris is you can cheat with a glue stick.
Oh, I didn't use a glue stick.
No, because otherwise you're fumbling around, and if you have to move it, it bumps.
You know, I ended up laying mine out on the floor and putting the woolly mat underneath everything.
No, I didn't have a woolly mat the first. I actually did that with my ironing board.
I could iron as I went, but it was a little bit of a process.
It's rough.
This is better.
If you try to pick this up, it's going to probably maybe fall.
It doesn't stick perfectly.
So Chris's favorite trip is you just
the center, right?
Yeah. And I mean, this is Elmer's washable glue. I would use a washable. You can, any craft glue will work. And then, so you'll glue all these down.
Talk to me about how you're laying this out. For starters, how do you know what size to cut?
Okay, so this is 2-inch finished, which means I'm going to cut all my blocks 2.5 inches. So that gives my seam allowance.
Okay, so when you put them down, your 2.5-inch block is actually going right to the edges of that dotted line.
And there is a little tiny bit, I think they're a little bit bigger, or you can cut your blocks a little bit smaller. I think I cut mine right on.
When I did mine, my little patriotic heart, mine were a little bit smaller. Mm-hmm. And I was all stressed out about it because they weren't reaching the edges. But you don't have to worry about that if it's, an 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah. So,
because you fold it and sew, and we'll show you that.
I'm just being very slow and particular here. I'm missing a black one. Did I drop it?
Donita says she used the glue stick and she thinks she learned it from Chris.
Yeah, that's who I learned it from.
Oh, you didn't drop it. I just hid it from you.
Sorry. I found it.
Didn't mean to do that.
Okay, so these are all glued on, and then they don't really fall off, which is nice. That is a trick I wish I would have known the first time. Fun fact.
Well, and even if they get bumped, right?
My very first month I worked here, we used to do a thing, and Chris was like, "You should make a grid heart." And I had never done anything with grid. I was like, "Okay, I'll figure it out." And then I ended up showing it somewhere, and she's like, "Jenny's teaching a class next week."
And that's how it rolls around here.
And sadly, I think the people in my class probably knew more than I did at the time, but I made it work. Okay, so this is all right here. And then what we're going to do next is come over to our ironing board, which I need to plug in. I'm just going to bring it over here because
that works.
We don't have to move.
Yeah, I like that. And I just had to pick this up, and I didn't lose any of them.
And don't worry, I won't let this sit long enough to warp my mat. Okay, so where's the pressing sheet? Right here? Not this one. You want to use that?
This one.
Well, actually, yeah. So what you can do 2 things here. And I would recommend the second one. The first one, you can just hit this with your iron.
I don't.
Be careful if you do that. You're going to end up, this has glue on it. It's going to end up on the bottom of your iron, which does come off fairly easily with a dryer sheet. So there's several different types of pressing sheets. I think we sell this one in a bigger size.
We do.
My favorite is the Goddess pressing sheet. I don't want to use this because I don't have mine with me. But what I love about this one is it's a little more see-through. So when you're working on the grid, or if you're doing collage quilting, what you're doing shows through a little bit easier. So this is the 10.5 by 16.5. I have the bigger one. They have huge ones. This is nice for like classes or just smaller pieces.
It's perfect for what you're demoing today.
I love it with the grid. And then if you do get the glue on it, you just scrape it off with a ruler.
I don't even have to.
I'm just going to use this one.
Sometimes you can just rub it like this and it goes right off.
Yeah, right? And what I like about this too is the heat transfers really quickly. This one's like a silicone mat. You have to hold it there a hot minute for it to work. It still works really well. So I'm going to use this today, but I honestly like the Gripsy quilter.
The goddess sheet.
This is Gypsy. The goddess sheet, the best out of all the ones I've ever used. But I think Chris likes this one the best. So it's just a personal preference. I use them both.
Well, and you've done a lot of collage quilting.
I've done a lot of collage quilting, and I do like the goddess pressing. So I'm just going to stick my little pressing sheet on here. My iron's hot. And what's nice about that goddess pressing sheet too is it kind of slides with you, whereas this one stays put.
So while you're ironing that, will you just maybe explain a little bit? Some people are asking, what is grid? What is this?
Oh, okay. So that's probably a good place to start. This is just a lightweight fusible interfacing that has been pre-printed with a grid line on it. Carmen Geddes sells this, or created. I don't know if she created it, but she is definitely the grid guru. The 10 Sisters quilting. And
so Jenny's already cut a few of these, and it comes in sheets, and these have been cut down. But you can kind of see it has this little black dotted line, but one side is sticky. And so you just lay your fabric right on there and then press it, and it makes piecing
super
slick. And there's so many things you can do with a square, right?
Yep. So I've pressed this, but yeah, it's just super lightweight fusible. I mean, you could honestly buy lightweight fusible and draw your own grid, but ain't nobody got time for that.
No. Save yourself the
time.
Right? Save yourself. They're just not that expensive. So
yeah, Alice, I use this as a pressing cloth. It works just fine. It'll protect my iron from the glue, so the glue doesn't transfer to the bottom of my iron.
And Alice said, so you use a silicone sheet as a pressing cloth? You can.
Yeah,
you can.
That's all I ever use it for.
And the goddess sheet is very similar to a Teflon sheet. I think it's a little bit thinner, but same. If you're used to Teflon sheets, then you're going to understand kind of what the material is made out of. So yeah.
So this one's silicone. I'm not sure what the goddess sheet is. I think it's also silicone, or is it Teflon?
It's Teflon. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's just they're both very heat resistant. Do be careful. The heat transfers on this, and you could burn yourself just by touching the mat.
Oh yeah, when you're done with it.
So I have pressed all of these on. What I'm going to do next, and this is where it gets fun. And if you have bigger pieces, you'll do your whole grid. I usually work in sections, and then just double check before you fuse anything down, because I did make a watermelon last year.
The scrappy watermelon.
And it was off on one side, and I had to remake the whole stinking thing because it's not fun to unpick.
No,
this doesn't unpick well.
You unpick, and you're picking through this too. But honestly, if you're careful, I mean, you don't have to do. I don't have to do a lot of unpicking with this. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So what we're going to do next is just fold on one of those pressed lines, and I'm going to sew just a regular 1/4 inch seam, and I'm going to do it on that one. And then you'll do your next one, fold it and sew. And if there's more, so on and so forth. Okay. So I've actually already done that. I don't know. Do you guys want me to demo that? It's pretty.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. Because sometimes it's just nice to see.
Don't burn yourself on the.
I will not. Okay. You've got to look and make sure that they can see.
I think they can see. Got to get my machine how I want it. Okay. So I've got my needle set to a 1/4 inch on my thing, or you could use a 1/4 inch foot, but you're just going to run it along the edge. Come up just a smidge, or just ankle it a bit more. I can't reach the foot. Okay, so I've just got a 1/4 inch foot, 1/4 inch seam. I'm just going to sew along that edge. You don't have to backstitch. And then open that up. I have a perfect seam. And we're going to do it on this side. So I'll just fold that in half, or not in half, but on the line. And again, we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam.
And if you had a bigger piece, you would continue on that same direction all the way through.
So if I had another piece here, I would fold it, sew it, so on and so forth. For the interest of time, we're just doing a 9 patch today. Okay, let's go back over so you don't kill your hands. You're so like smooth and particular. Actually, just come up to my
like, look at my big giant hand. Do not want any jitters.
Gonna move that so I don't melt this mat. Okay, it hasn't gone through yet. All right, so if you look closely, you've got a little gap here and a little gap here. We're going to take our scissors and we're just gonna snip that. You can snip through to the stitching. I usually stop, but if you go all the way through, don't be alarmed.
So you are snipping on the side that you just stitched, kind of into the seam allowance a little bit.
My stitch line is right here. I'm just going to snip, snip. And the reason I do that is because when I fold this, it lines up. Whereas if I tried to fold it here, it's just going to be a hot mess.
I did it.
You did it?
First time through. Somebody, like I'd never used grid before. So they were like, oh yeah, we're going to make these scrappy hearts and this is how you do it. And don't forget to snip. And when I got to that part, I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. So I didn't snip. And it's
kind of the most important part.
It's really nice. I mean, it turned out, it was fine, but it helps with, it doesn't feel so bulky. It's just much easier. It looks better. It looks better to snip. So
Cindy's asking, do I use a scant? I just used a normal 1/4 inch. I think as long as you're consistent with your seams, it's going to work out the same. Okay. So I have snip, snipped, snip, snipped, and you'll snip if you have more. You're going to cut everything before you start sewing. And then it just folds like this. And then what you want to make sure you do is your seams want them going the same direction. So these ones are all facing up. These ones are all facing down. The first time I made this, I pinned all of these. And Chris was like, no, you didn't.
Don't need to pin.
You don't need to pin.
And you know Chris.
Yeah.
She won't pin it if she doesn't have to.
And I was at the point in my sewing career where I pinned everything because I was brand new. So I have just folded that in half the other direction. And because I've snipped it, it's laying perfectly flat. And then this is facing up. These are facing down. I'm just going to come sew another 1/4 inch over at the machine.
I thought you were going to press that, but you don't really need to.
No, you don't need to press it. I might press it.
When you're all done.
Well, I might actually press it back up before I go the other way.
Okay.
I'm going to put it on your face so they're not just staring at my stomach here.
No, there's no stomach. It was scissors.
Okay, and then
you don't want to stare at my face.
Just make sure, so these ones are facing up. Make sure when you fold this next part
that they're going the same way.
Yeah, they're going the same direction as the other one. So these will be facing down, just like they are on this seam. These ones will be facing up.
Are you sure that's the right direction?
Mm-hmm.
But those are down, and those are up.
Yep. So it stays down because you wouldn't want it to go this way. And so opposite, right?
Sure.
Turn on your brain.
I thought you were going to make all of these go up. Never mind.
No. Okay.
You just do what you do.
Let me just explain that a little bit better if you were confused. So I have caught this seam right here. These ones are facing down. I still want them to face down with this one, and these ones are going to face up. Otherwise, when you go to do it, you will have like a cattywampus.
So these are going up just like these are going up.
You're making this more difficult.
No, I'm not. Just quit. Just don't even listen to me, okay? You know what we were going to do today?
She's overthinking it.
We were going to do who can do the best with a seam ripper. We were going to put
the ball up and the ball down.
Yeah, we were going to put it to the test because there still is. It's kind of like, do you wash your fabric first? Yes. Chris says it goes down, and there are many others that say it goes down. So we were going to do a little seam ripping contest. Maybe we'll do that one of these days. She's pretty sure she's
down, but it's going to rip.
She's pretty sure she'll win.
I'm pretty confident in that. Okay,
she's confident in everything.
So I just sewed a 1/4. Have a healthy ego. All right, and then I'm just going to press this, but I think most of my glue has come off here. But I'm probably just going to snip this real fast. Or you can use your pressing sheet again. You just don't want to transfer glue.
You just want to iron that back down again.
Well, I'm just going to press it flat so it looks nice.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to get glue on my thing. And then gotcha. This, I would probably make all your seams going in the same direction. But you can do what you want. Because when you go to piece it with something else, just if you're going to piece other things together, press accordingly. See, this is hard for me because I press everything open.
I do a lot of open pressing too. Honestly, I open pressed all the time until I started working here, and I was like, oh, all right, I guess I better press to one side or the other.
And voila, I have a perfectly pieced 9 patch.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is,
look at those points.
Yeah, it's like,
right? It's perfect.
Perfecto.
And you didn't even have to I could come up with this.
And then, like I was saying, if things are pressed same direction, I can still put these two together.
And they're going to be
and I would just nest my seams. So if you're putting more than one block together, or like these grids come in certain sized panels, just when you do your final pressing, make sure that you're pressing so that it will line up with the piece you're about to press it to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you guys?
We're nesting
so that is just kind of how you do the grid. It's super easy. It's very user friendly. It's great for kids.
Oh yeah.
Like, that'll take up half the time is just giving them a glue stick and making them stick it
I know,
on
let
there.
them do that part. Keep it straight. And it's not like letting them sew it that's a great idea. Yeah. I love that idea. So you guys had some questions.
We're going to go through this really fast.
Yes, we are. So the machine that she was sewing on is a Baby Lock Ariel.
Altair.
Altair, I mean, the Ariel.
It's just
the sewing machine. The Altair is a sewing machine and an embroidery machine. But it is a Baby Lock. So they're kind of one of our favorites. And
okay,
sizes.
So grid sizes, they come pre-printed in 1/2 inch finished, 1 inch finished, 1.5 inch finished, 2, and I don't know about 2.5.
I think there is a 2.5.
I can't remember. I know there's at least those 4.
We do sell it there. I'm not sure
on the website, or we are selling it tomorrow night on Comment Sold. We've got some fun free patterns if you purchase it from Carmen. So
yeah, we often will pull it out and do the grid and sell the grid.
Melt my mat.
On our Comment Sold sales, and that usually includes a free pattern or something. So you can get it. We always sell it, but we usually have some kind of a special if we do it on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, or we'll have like a corresponding bundle to go with her thing. So stay tuned for tomorrow.
How much bigger would you have to cut a 1/2 square triangle to get it to fit? Isn't it 1 inch?
So you would actually make your 1/2 square triangle to finish at the 2 inch size. So it needs to be 2.5 inches. But it finishes at the 2 inch. So just follow your instructions on 1/2 square triangles to get the finish size. Usually, you cut them about 1 inch bigger to make them. No, I do not use a scant inch. Could we use?
Do you only sew the lines vertically? Yeah.
This would have worked with the friendship block, but it would have been a little bit weird because it is thin. Normal, not thin. You know what I'm trying to say, right?
You mean
like it has interfacing on it. So not everybody's block is going to have interfacing. So it would be kind of weird if you put it together with a quilt.
Right. One of them would be stiffer than the other. And this can be quilted by your long arm. You can quilt it on your machine. You can still quilt with it. If you've done everything right and you've laid the seams correctly and nestled them, that's going to be a lot easier for your long armor. So don't do what I did the first time. Definitely snip. Figure out what it is. We told you, so we're good.
Okay. Jen is asking to explain the snipping again. So I have sewn on this and on this. If I was to just try and flip this without snipping it,
it kind of wrinkles a little bit.
It wrinkles, but when you open it back up, it is super bulky.
And you can't fix how they lay.
Yeah. So it makes this part huge. So what you want to do is just snip
into the seam, just not to the thread.
You can.
I mean,
like
to
if you
the
go
thread,
too
but
far,
not
it's
through
fine.
the thread. Yeah.
And even if you do, it's not going to ruin anything. It's all stuck together. So you'll snip that, and then that way, when you flip it this way, and I've got to actually line that up correctly, then you can make your seams nest. Thank you for making that stop. So I just want to show you the difference. This one will nest, whereas this one, they would both be going the same direction. And then when you open it back up, this is just a hot mess of bulk.
It's like double the bulk that it needs to be. And when you're making a big piece, like I believe the patriotic star is like 30 by 30 or something, like it's a much bigger one, and you haven't snipped any of those.
Not a good idea.
Yeah.
It's like chain piecing. You just cut them apart. That's a good explanation.
And honestly, it's kind of fun. You get all it's the same size squares. You just do a whole bunch of them. It goes down.
It really doesn't. I was taught by O'Reilly Blake Rupp. It goes
for up. The record. Yeah, but Cindy
doesn't use that. She uses the knife. She doesn't like any seam ripper except her thingy.
So I've always done it with the ball up, but then I, was taught that was wrong.
And then what happened when you did that on my block? You ripped a hole in it. It works, but if you don't want to rip a hole in your thing, up, because you're coming up. It's protected.
Deanna said,
I'm very passionate about this.
Okay.
Like I said, I have rage issues today.
Oh, sweet. Deanna just made 3 pillowcases while listening to us.
Sweet. We talk a lot.
You know what? I think it's, I like to turn on 3 at 3 or sometimes comments sold when I'm sewing.